Let's talk about architecture a little bit. Let's talk about light in buildings and how we can have light in buildings after we don't have electricity and LED bulbs. We want to really see into the future. And we want our buildings to last for like 600 years. So we should design them for the most primitive conditions that will potentially be occurring in the future. We only have electricity on a mass scale for a very short time, and there's lots of reasons to think that it won't be available later, even though we won't have the ability to make solar panels or have LED lights. So what I was thinking was, well, skylights are an awfully great sounding way to get light into a building, but they're going to break eventually or be destroyed. Maybe by a big hailstorm, maybe just by solar radiation if they're not made out of glass, like polycarbonate. My polycarbonate in my house is already going bad, and I haven't even had it for 20 years. Actually, I have had it for about 20 years. And it's I think, warranted for 30, and the years go by quickly. So I feel kind of dumb that I have a solution on my roof that is noisy in rain and that will go bad later. And then it will be compromised and the roof will rot. It already has leaks anyway. So, I'm more keen on concrete roofs anyway. And I want concrete to last longer. And if it gets wet, then it tends to rust the rebar that gives it some structure. And then concrete can fail. So that's why I'm interested in basalt rebar. You can look up basalt rebar. I've never personally tried it, but it's not made of metal, so it doesn't rust. And there may be some other options as well, like how can we build with concrete and have it last. Also, a little off topic here, but apparently they've rediscovered how the Romans made concrete, and that's superior. I forgot how they did it, but there was articles and things about it. So what I was thinking was, there's always this belief that your south-facing windows are the most important light. I'm kind of disagreeing with that. Now, I know that on the south side of the building, it's going to get more light. I'm in the northern hemisphere. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't tell you where I'm at, but that's a pretty big area, so it doesn't narrow it down too much. And the thing is, if I have overhanging eaves, which I want for rain issues, then I'm not going to get a lot of sun through the south side of the building. I'm going to get more on the southeast and southwest sides for a bunch of the year. And so I want to maximize light coming through those when the sun is low in the sky. And of course, where the sun is in the morning or in the evening is going to depend on the time of year. Because it moves, right? Based on your latitude and stuff. So what I want is a window that's pointed between the equinox setting location in the winter and the summer equinox. And so it would be the solstice, I guess. So the rising and setting spot on the solstices. That is where I point my window. That faces southeastish and southwestish. A little bit, yeah. Anyway, so I want to save the south side, not for light, unless I put a greenhouse there, which I should plan for that greenhouse to eventually fall apart. Even though I wouldn't be so dumb as to put up a plastic greenhouse, I would do it with glass, and maybe some of that would be frosted glass in the top so that it's not as harsh as sun when it is sunny, and it would light up really well and it would still heat up. And it could still have on the side a tilted part of it that lets a lot more sun into there so that it would heat from there. But I'm actually more interested in, if we're going to go, because we have to plan for the now and we have to plan for this post-apocalyptic future, if there is one, which there might not be. In fact, a meteor just hit today, it didn't hit. It was a meter-long meteor. Oh, sorry, an asteroid. I think whatever it is, meteor or asteroid, I forgot the difference, has to be at least a meter to count. Otherwise, it's a meteorite if it's smaller. So it must be meteor then. What the hell's the difference? I don't know. Rocks from the sky. They only found out about it like hours before it happened. I think the first alert was 5 hours before, And so, you know, if we ever do get a meteor hitting, we're screwed. But this one burned up in the atmosphere over the Philippines. And it did no damage. Some people got some pictures. So they had at least enough warning to get some decent pictures. That's a good thing. Anyway, back to light. I was thinking about on those east and west facing windows. Well, first of all, we could do hexagonal buildings. So we may have walls that actually, if we orient the hexagon in the right way, we may have walls that actually point in the exact correct directions. That's another matter. I was also thinking on the east and west sides of hopefully a fairly large building, because we want to have the envelope be larger. We don't want to make a bunch of tiny buildings. The bigger one we make, the easier it is to keep it at a stable temperature, especially since we're going to dig the building half in, which we may want to do on a southeast facing slope, and I have some of that in some really nice spots. I'm not going to worry about view from inside the building. I want to put decks on top. If the top is concrete, I want it to be walkable so that I'll have space up there, and I'll plan for that. It might even be slightly inclined so water flows off of it, which would make it weird to walk on. And I put walls around it so nobody falls off and breaks their legs or something dumb like that. I was thinking on the east and west sides, you could make a wall that was angled in exactly the right way to catch the southern sun when it's high in the sky, and we don't have it on the south side unless we have a greenhouse there, but that's a different matter. And that would reflect, and we would paint it white, right, with the brightest white we could find, the most reflective white. It would be blindingly white, and it would reflect as much radiation from all over the spectrum into the building at that part of the building. That gives you really well lit spaces longer in the day. And that could actually be curved in a way where it had a huge amount of light flowing in to those windows. Now, it almost sounds scary. Like, I don't want to make a death ray out there to concentrate the solar beams inside the building and fry whatever's inside. However, in general, in a building that's partly dug in, so I'm already taking care of coolness, right? It's not overheating in my climate. And this is all dependent on your climate, right? It's going to depend on the specifics. But I know this climate really well now. And so yeah, I have these curved walls on both the east and west sides that don't block the setting sun, but they are exactly angled, and it would be curved, I assume, to direct all of those rays into those windows, shooting them into the building. And then hopefully that would shoot far into the building, because we've changed the direction of the rays. And so it would actually light up a bigger space than, all day than we could otherwise light up. Now, I wouldn't be able to do it on the east side during sunset or on the west side during dawn, but you'd have to do something weird with that to get that. I know there's some town somewhere in like Scandinavia where it was in it. God damn it. Fucking shit to trip over here everywhere. And they're in like a valley. It's a dark valley. And part of the year is already too dark there anyway. Like probably a bunch of it. And so they were really in bad shape. And so they actually installed big mirrors on their ridges to shine light into the valley. And I saw pictures, and it certainly looked successful. And that's what got me thinking about this. But then I was thinking mirrors are going to go bad over time. And so I want to use something else. And they have special paints now that we would not have access to in the future, but we can always keep it white somehow, like with Cal. But there's some white dirt over there. That's when it dries, it's white. When it's wet, it's gray. I'm not sure what that is. I need to do chemical tests on it to find out. But I like that better than skylights. We could still make skylights for now and have a big light shaft that comes into the building, and in the very center of the building, the darkest part, and shoot it way down into like the darkest areas, with the knowledge that someday those will fail, and that we have to make sure we plan for rain issues to not destroy anything. So any rain, like let's say we didn't have the window there, it has to be ready for rain to come pouring into it, and then that rain just goes flowing off in the correct place. There can be channels and stuff, and we just plan for that to be okay. If we don't plan for that and the skylights fail, then eventually we're messed up because, yeah, you have to plan for failure. All the normal systems you expect, all of civilization stuff will fail. And so if it didn't work 400 years ago, I don't want to do it now. I think about 400 years ago quite a bit. Actually 200 years ago. Yeah, like 1800. Like when I think about what's the optimal population for the planet, I think it would probably be around 1 billion. Because we had that population at one time and we were approaching unsustainability, but that's when we began starting to use oil, causing the population to spike upward, like in a crazy way. So I think 1 to 2 billion is a very reasonable target for population. Way off topic from light inside a building. Have we covered it? Yes. We plan for systems to fail. We use the east and west side so that we get the earliest light of the day inside the building and the latest light of the day to come in as well. The earliest is more important because we really want that light because it's going to heat up our building, which was getting colder. And if it's dug in, it's going to be kind of cold in the most dug in spots. So we're trying to balance out the entrance of solar radiation into the building and the coolness of the earth. And we get to live in the middle at like 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Celsius, something like that. You know, we want to be at a comfortable temperature. This is for the humans. Of course, by the building, we would have root cellars that would keep it kept as cold as possible. Different whole task there. Part of the building we want really cold. Like big ones. Walk in with a tunnel from above so that cold air can't escape. And hot air can if you open the door. So, I think that's it. Oh, no, it's not. It's not. The other thing is for heating, and it's okay to overheat spaces at times. I mean, one of the dangers of passive solar is you could create a solar oven and your people want to be in it. But we can always open a lot of windows. So we have to be able to vent heat out easily. So we need a plan for that to just be able to completely change that. And we can have whole walls, you know, where we're channeling heat into part of the building, making it too hot. And then whole walls we could remove if we know we're always getting it too hot. So we could make it a building actually we can adjust after we build it. I mean, of course, we'll make the best guesses we can and talk with engineers and smart people. But, you know, we should have ways that we can make it colder or hotter somehow. Also, we want places that are too hot because, I mean, even here in the shade, in the hottest time of year, it can be kind of cold. And then when the rains come and it's moist, you know, it gets colder. So there's a lot of issues to consider. I don't have to worry a lot about humidity. Such a building would dry itself out really well, which is great. On the south side, if I really want to make a really hot space, I have a magic solution, and this should blow anyone's mind. I have a bunch of solutions based on this, and it's a technology called the evacuated tube solar hot water heater, or you can just call it a solar hot water heater. But the point is the ones I have available, that they're now made in mass, they're quite common, it has a vacuum around the tubes. The black tube has a glass tube around it. It's a vacuum within. A vacuum is a perfect insulator. So all the radiation is hitting the black part, and the water in the black tube, heating it up, and none of that heat can escape. That heat then goes up the angled tubes into a big thermos-like thing. From the thermos-like thing, because I don't want to have to revamp this, I don't want to get fancy with it, I want to keep it very simple. It goes from the thermos thing in an insulated pipe into the envelope of the building, moving that heat inside the building. All the hot water is moving slightly upward. It doesn't have to be a big up, so that just has to be a little bit lower. You could put it at the same level as the ground, as long as it went up to a thermal mass that was slightly higher than it, which could be in the walls. A lot of people do this in the floors for radiant floor heating. I'm actually concerned we would overheat the building this way. And so I have to do smaller experiments before I design a large building that relies on these. And really, I want to make sure I don't rely on them, because I expect the vacuums will fail at least. If they don't get hit by anything, they could last a very long time, but it won't last hundreds of years. You're not going to see these things 200-year-old ones. And so then I'm thinking about having a deck on the south side that has water in it, and then that water is sealed within that, right? But it can get up out of that chamber into a hotter spot, hotter water that's inside the building. And so this would be like a deck, black tinted deck with like channels in it of water, and not necessarily very, very deep, because we want it to heat up, whatever the right depth is for being able to heat it up a lot during the day. And then have it strong enough to walk on. Although I don't know if I want to be walking on totally black stuff in some of the days here, because the sun can get very harsh. But whatever, different problem. Well, actually it's a real problem, but I want to make something that melts your shoes. I don't think that would happen. No, it wouldn't melt your shoes, but you probably wouldn't walk on it barefoot during certain times of the year. And that's not about light, that's about moving heat in. And that's how I would be using the south side. Greenhouse or solar hot water heaters. Either one of those would be great. Have we covered it? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've got lots of other ideas that I could do now, but I'm just worried we'll use technology that won't really work in the future. So I don't want to set ourselves up for failure. Bye.